Hello everybody and welcome back to the second shelf and to the video that I was supposed to film last Wednesday about the Women's Prize for Fiction, Longlist. And I didn't get to it, so as usual I'm way late to the party on Sunday when the Longlist was announced on Tuesday. But what can you do? Anyway, what I want to do is, first of all, I think if you follow my channel for a little bit, you know already that I read the long list last year before the shortlist was announced, and that's what I'm planning to do this year as well. The 16 books I have read only one. Read, I DNF'd it. We will come to that in a minute. There are a couple of books on there that I was thinking of reading, not that interested, but maybe I thought if they are long listed, I will read them. I'm not in the know about the new releases and things like that. I don't read that many new releases. So a lot of the books on the list are completely unknown to me, even by name of author. But I feel kind of vindicated because even the people who are in the know, you know, the British booktubers like Eric Carl Anderson or Simon Savage, Eric's prediction video he does always with Anna, they only had 3 or 4 correct predictions. So I'm less stupid than I thought. It doesn't really matter. Anyway, what I want to do today is just, not do a rundown of each and every book. You have had plenty of opportunity to watch booktubers who did that, but more a general and contemplation about the list. And I will talk about individual books if I have something to say about them. So the first thing we have a case of bleeding lipstick again. Okay, we'll just roll with it. The first thing that I noticed, and I think other booktubers have already mentioned that, is there are quite a lot of debut novels on the list. From the 16, 9 of them, that's more than half, are debut novels. You can have a whole discussion whether a debut novel can be that good that it should be on a prize list. We're not going to go into that. We're just stating the fact. There are 9 debut novels on the list, and I'm always excited about the fact that I can discover new authors through the Women's Prize in particular. Last year, I discovered Salt Lick, which was a crowdfunded book on the long list. It was fantastic, and one of my favorite reads of the year was Creatures of Passage, which was also long listed, and I had never heard of that book. So I'm excited for the fact that a lot of the books I have never heard of. The other theme that for me at least seems to be a theme of the long list is there is a lot of historical fiction on the list. That could be, again, I'm not in the know with new publications and new books that are published, that is something, that the field of historical fiction is just much bigger than it used to be. Or it could be that it's a judge's panel's preference, that the judges just happen to like historical fiction. But it struck me that there is really a lot of historical fiction. There are a couple of big names. We are also not going to go into the fact that big names are also missing, because as you know, with prizes, we don't know whether a book was submitted or not. So I can say, well, I don't know, Ali Smith is not on the list. I don't think she had a book out that was eligible, but just, I could say that. But we don't know whether her book was submitted. So we don't know whether it was purposefully not put on the list, not considered for the list, or whether it wasn't even submitted. So we're not going to go into that because it doesn't make sense to have this discussion. Anyway, so from the list, when I look at the list, this is my to-do list. This doesn't make sense to look at that. But if I look at the books that were kind of expected maybe, then I'll start off with the one book that I read or DNF'd, and that is, you'll find, by the way, a list of all the 16 books in alphabetical order in the description box. So Glory by No Violet Bulawayo. I just didn't get along with it. It's historical fiction about Zimbabwe, and all the main protagonists are made into animals, and I just didn't feel it. But we'll see what I will do, whether I will pick it up now again or whether I wait if it's on the short list. I mean, a DNF counts kind of if I promise to read the whole list, doesn't it? Anyway, another book that I'm personally really excited that it's on the list is Natalie Haynes' Stone Blind, which is about Medusa, the Greek mythological figure. I really enjoyed Natalie Haynes' previous books, Myth Retelling, 1,000 Ships. I very much liked her nonfiction about Pandora. I think maybe the Greek mythological retelling has maybe run its course. We had quite a lot of those, starting with Madeline Miller's books, Circe, but not that they are bad books, don't get me wrong. Pat Barker had a couple of those out, The Women of Troy. But it seems maybe that this is a topic that will not come back next year for the prize. Then the biggest name probably on the list is Barbara Kingsolver, Demon Copperhead, a US author, and everybody loved the book. It's a 600-page sort of retelling of David Copperfield put in modern Appalachia. So a poverty childhood transformed from Victorian England to the US, in particular Appalachia. I don't gel with Kingsolver. It's not her fault. It's not her book's fault. It's me. We just don't. I don't even like the big ones like Lacuna or Poisonwood Bible. So like I said, everybody who doesn't have this issue with her says it's her best book and it should probably win because it's so brilliant. So I will read it, even though it's 600 and something pages. Anyway, from the bigger names, Sophie McIntosh, Cursed Bread. She is a Wales author, also historical fiction, taking a real event in France in the 1950s where a whole village died of poisoned bread or something. I was one of the few people who didn't get along at all with her previous, not her previous book, but her the water book. I forgot the name. Oh dear, you know which one I mean. So I was one of the few people who didn't. If I remember, I will put the title here. I didn't get along with that. So I'm not following this author. She had a book in between and is now longlisted. We'll see. The topic doesn't really interest me that much, I have to say. Then, of course, we have Elizabeth Mackenzie, Dog of the North, which is supposed to be a funny book. I didn't get along with her previous book, the Fablin book, either. I mean, not getting along. It was not my cup of tea. But I'm interested because it seems it's one of the few books on the list that are supposed to be funny. So we'll see about that. And then, of course, big name, Maggie Farrell, The Marriage Portrait, about a Medici daughter, Lucretia, in the late Renaissance in Florence, and her fateful marriage. She dies. She was married off when she was 15. It's a true story. So it's historical fiction about a true historical figure. She was married off when she was 15 to the fiance of her sister, but the sister died. And she died a year into her marriage. She was only 16. So not overly enthusiastic about this theme, but a lot of people say the twist in the story is interesting. So that was one of the books that I thought maybe I'll read it if it's longlisted for the Women's Prize. And then a book I'm personally excited about is Laline Paul's new novel, Pod. Laline Paul is, it's fantasy-ish, kind of. She is a British author, and I really loved The Bees, which was set in a beehive. And this one, Pod, is set in a dolphin's pod, and we follow one particular dolphin who has issues. So she did that really well with The Bees. So I hope she did it equally, or does it equally well. She had written the book already, so she did it equally well with dolphins. We'll see. So those are the more, the bigger names, the names I at least recognized. Then we have Jennifer Croft, the debuts. Jennifer Croft, Homesick. Jennifer Croft, you probably know her from her translations. She's a translator. Originally, she translated Olga Tokarczuk, for instance. So she translates Russian, Argentine, Spanish, and Ukrainian. And this book, she wrote it first in Spanish, then reworked it, translated it herself into English. And she is a US author, so it came out in the US first. It's about two sisters, heavily autobiographical. And in the US, the publisher decided that it should be marketed as a memoir, even though it is fictionalized. So in the US, if you buy the book, it's called a memoir, and that wouldn't qualify, obviously, for the Women's Prize for fiction. But in the UK, it had been reworked. There were pictures also in the memoir of Jennifer Croft and her sister, or their childhood. So the pictures have been taken out, and it had been reworked, and now it's about two sisters, none of which is called Jennifer, but it's still highly autobiographical, but it is fiction. So short little debut book, interested certainly. Then we have Jacqueline Crook's Fire Rush, also a debut, a UK author, Jamaica-born. This is again historical fiction set in London, in the community, the Jamaican originated community, and it's about the music and the raves and the I probably wouldn't be picking this up from the theme, even though it sounds interesting, but not something that I would gravitate towards. But we'll see. Then we have Camila Grudova, another debut, the only Canadian author. And this one sounds really interesting. I haven't read Grudova. She is debut author for a novel, but she had a short story collection out, which I haven't read. And this one, Children of Paradise, is set around an old, dilapidated movie theater. I mean, Children of Paradise, obviously, famous film, French film about movie theater, and paradis in the French language is paradise, Garden of Eden and such. But for movies, it's the balcony, the cheap seats on the balcony. So it is a lot about movies and movie theater. We'll see. But I will certainly pick that up. I think the most hyped, I don't mean that in a negative way, but the debut that had gotten the most press and attention is Louise Kennedy's Trespasses. It's also historical fiction, again, set in Northern Ireland during the Troubles. And from what I heard, it's quite a haunting read. Obviously, if it's set in the Troubles, it's not... it won't be easy, and it won't be like, a humorous, chill read. But it's certainly one of I think the only debut novel that I actually had heard about because it gotten so much buzz. And then let's see. Yes, another UK author, historical fiction, Priscilla Morris, Black Butterflies, and that one interests me because it's set in Sarajevo in 1992 during the siege and during the war. Priscilla Morris has Yugoslavian, one of her parents is from Yugoslavia, or former Yugoslavia, I should say, and she didn't grow up. She didn't grow up there, but she traveled to the country a lot. So, and I'm sure she has insight from her family history about the siege in Sarajevo in 1992. So that's an interesting, for me at least, an interesting debut. And then there are two debuts that I've never heard of. Sheena Patel, I'm a fan, about social media and stalking. It seems to me the Lockwood of this year, nobody's talking about this. That didn't work for me that well, but not because of the social media part, but because of the story. So maybe this one will work better for me. It's certainly interesting, It is a very big theme, social media. So then we have the Paris-born Cécile Pin, Wandering Souls, another historical fiction by a British author. And whoops, what happens here? I don't know. And it's about refugees from Vietnam, a refugee story, survivors after the Vietnam War coming to the UK. That's all I know about that. And the last two are both debuts. One is Perina Shroff, Bandit Queens. And I think Jenny King talked about this book. Yeah, because she read it and she really liked it, but she didn't think it would be one of the books that would be put on the long list for the Women's Prize. And it sounds like, your easygoing mystery with a woman whose husband dies under mysterious circumstances, and maybe she killed him or maybe not, but other women turn to her for help to kill their husbands. And that sounds like, hilarious, but it's, if I can trust Jenny, and I do trust Jenny, it's way more dark than that. So I'm definitely looking forward to that, and I haven't heard of. And then the last one is Tara M Stringfellow, Memphis, also a debut US author. And that was certainly a debut I've heard of, and I was planning on reading. Big family saga set in the South in Memphis, 70 years, so from the 20th century all the way up until the present, if I remember correctly. But family saga. But then the author really behaved so stupidly. There's this. You can, if I remember, I will leave a link to one video that was made. Stringfellow is a black author, by the way. And a black booktuber made a video about how a Stringfellow engaged with her in a really stupid and condescending and negative way because of a review, not even a review, a remark this booktuber made about the book. She said on Instagram, commenting on another Instagrammer's review of the book, rave review, and she commented, "I liked it, but the men were trash." And that was followed by a whole, have a look for yourself, really stupid. So I thought, I'm not gonna give this author any money, which is petty of me, I know, but I just don't like it if authors behave this way. If you can't handle negative reviews, and this wasn't even negative, I liked the book, but if you can't handle that, you should not publish books. Anyway, so this was my quick rundown of the Women's Prize for Fiction Longlist 2023. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching. Sorry again for being half a week late. Let me know if you are planning on reading any of the books, or whether you have read any of the books and really enjoyed them or hated them. And I will talk to you all soon in the next one.